Today I'm working on making some paper roses for a display. I'm using mine for some centerpieces for some tables. Much less inexpensive to use the paper roses than to purchase roses that are baked at the craft stores. It's kind of an inexpensive alternative. It does take some time, but if you're willing to spend a little time, you can easily make some simple roses that will look nice for your table or whatever you want to use them for. So all I need to make them is just regular coffee filter. Kind of take the paper and flatten it out just a little bit. Use scissors. Cut the papers. I usually cut several at once because then I don't have to cut so many, and it's pretty thin, so you can easily cut through several at once. I'm cutting through 4 or 5 right now. I'm just cutting it in a simple spiral pattern. Just like that. I'll put that aside. I'm also using these shish kebab sticks, and I'm breaking them into thirds for this job because I want short stems for my flowers. So you can see some of the ones I've made here. There's a flower, and I've covered the shish kebab stick with just this green floral tape. It's also pretty inexpensive and easy to get just at your craft store or floral store. So that's what they'll look like. So just the shish kebab sticks, coffee filters, and the green floral tape. I'm also using my glue gun and scissors, and that's about all you need. So I'll take one of my pieces of paper that I've cut. I'm going to fold down the corner like this. I'm going to take one of my sticks that I've broken, and I'm just going to attach it with a little bit of glue from my hot glue gun. Just a little bit of glue on the paper, and then sort of twist and fold the paper around the stick so it'll be held in place on the stick as I twist it around. So I'll just continue twisting the paper around the stick so I get a nice tight center for my flower. And I'll just keep twisting and rolling it around and around. When I get to the part where the paper starts to come to the center, it will make a little bit different shape, which is just fine. You just use that and twist your paper around and kind of fold it up until you've used it all, and then just take that end piece, twist it around, and then use glue gun, just a dab of glue to keep the paper in place. And I'll grab another piece of paper. I'm going to start this one in the opposite direction. Just going to use a little bit of glue to hold it in place. For this rose, I'm going to use 2 layers of paper. That makes sort of a nice bud that's starting to just open up. That sort of a look. But if you use just one, you can do it for a tiny bud, or if you use 3 or more, it starts to look like a rose that's really starting to open up nicely. But I like to do a variety of different sizes for a bouquet because I feel like that helps it to look a little bit more realistic. So I just wind this around. And I wind it around. Wind it around. just sort of tack that in place with a little bit of glue from my glue gun. Just a little bit will do just fine. And there's my bud. I'm going to use a little bit more glue to help attach the paper to the stick a little bit more at the base so that it doesn't come apart while I'm trying to get the green floral tape around it. So set that down. I usually use about 10 inches to a foot for this size of a stem. Just simply break it off. I'm going to start it with a little bit of glue because the floral tape doesn't like to stick to the paper very well in the beginning. The trick to the floral tape is pulling it tightly around itself because it binds nicely to itself. And I just sort of twist that around a few times around the base of my flower. I like to do it several times where the flower starts, so it can have a little bit thicker base, and then I just twist it around my stick nice and tight so it fuses to itself until I've gotten down to the bottom of the stick. And I keep twisting and let the paper come down until there's just this paper tape, and I pull it off and discard the extra, and there I have just a simple rosebud. For my next one, I'm going to make a little bit larger of a rose. So I'll take my stick again, just glue it in place with a little bit of glue, just like the other one, and roll it. And just keep rolling it around the stick. Till you get to the end of the paper. And then you just twist that around as well. Use a little bit of glue to hold it in place. And I'll take another paper. And this one I'm going to twist in the opposite direction to kind of simulate the way the rose petals sometimes go in different directions around the outside of a rose. I'll start it with a little bit of glue to hold it in place while I start to wrap it, so it doesn't come apart. And I'll just do the same thing, twisting it around and around the other paper, kind of using my thumb to hold it in place at the base so it doesn't come apart until I glue it. Sometimes I crimp the edges of the paper to help make a little bit more realistic look like a petal would have, because the coffee filter paper is really easy to kind of just crimp with your fingers to make it the shape you want it to be in. So there's my second layer. I'm going to take my glue and just dab a little bit at the end to hold that in place while I get my next paper. So it doesn't come apart. Here's my next one. this one I'm again going to go in the opposite direction of the last one I did. So I'll tag that in place to hold it. Start winding it in the opposite direction of the last one. And you can kind of scoot the paper up and down the stick if you want it to be a little bit different shape. It's easy to change it to be the way you want it. And at the end, I'm just going to crimp the paper down with my fingers again. Pull it just a little bit tighter. Fold the edges just a little bit to help it look a little bit more realistic, hopefully. And then I'll take a little bit more glue and dab it at the edge of that last paper to hold it in place. And it'll want to kind of slide when you have a lot of paper on there. So I'm going to add a little bit more glue where the paper meets the stick. Kind of hold it in place until I get my floral tape tightly around that. For a larger flower, I'm going to use a little bit more of the floral tape. Use about 14 inches. I'm going to start it again with the glue gun. Just a little bit of glue, because that floral tape does not like to stick to the paper very much of the copy filters. I'm going to twist it around tightly. And I'll start to wind it down towards the bottom of the stem. Sometimes I turn and change directions with my twisting as I go down, if I feel like it's wanting to come apart a little bit. And I just get some of that glue off my fingers because it likes to try to stick to everything. And I just pull it tightly as I twist it down the stem, and it'll stick very nicely to the wood and bind to itself as I go down to the end of the stick. And you can make little bits of greenery with the tape. You can see that the pulled off edges of the floral tape, they make nice little bits of greenery for the bottom of your rosebud that you can add, or you can make some leaves and add them on. You can make them however you'd like. But so there's a little bit larger rosebud, or rose flower. So there you go. After you've made a few, you'll have a nice bouquet, and you can use it however you'd like. And if you want to change the color of the filters, that's pretty easy. You just take some water and a little tiny bit of paint or food coloring, and you can soak this in the colored water and then dry them, and then you can do roses in a variety of different colors as well if you wanted to do a different color besides white. But for me, the white is working very nicely. It will be a lovely, simple centerpiece for some tables that I'll be decorating. So that's how you do the roses.